All right, so we've talked about we can group these questions into 4 different types. Here's my sloppy. There's doable and there's difficult. And there is fast or quick, and there is slow. Doable and quick, we want to be great at those. Difficult or tricky and quick, we want to be great at those. That's, just recognizing, oh, this is this kind of question. Doable and slow that take time, we want to absolutely do that question. This kind of question that is difficult and takes up a lot of time, we want to survive, which means we are not in our limited store of patience and positivity and attention span, all that stuff, and time that's on the test. We're not going to waste an awful lot on this. If we can get to a 50-50, we're going to get to a 50-50. So we're going to look at this one super quick. Which of the following is equivalent to that? Now I'm going to skip on down to the walkthrough. It is a ton of math, and it's a ton of difficult math, because this means factoring all least common denominator of both of these things and factoring all these things out and then doing all that massive math and blah, 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 all that stuff to get to this. That takes 5 minutes, and we get 2 minutes and 30 seconds on average per question. So here's the thing. What they're basically asking here is adding and subtracting fractions. And the quickest way to add and subtract fractions, and they don't really teach this stuff well, I don't know if they teach it in school now, but they sure didn't when I was young. The old way that they taught was doing least common denominator, where you have to go, okay, these 2 numbers have to match. Well, if I multiply this by 5, I'll get 15. If I multiply this by 3, I'll get 15. That'll make a match. But so I got to multiply this by 3, and I got to multiply this by 5. And then I can do the work, and then I'm going to go over here and add that stuff together, and then I'm going to come up with a fraction that I have to work with anyway. There is a faster way. Believe it or not, it's cross multiplying. First things first, we multiply that way. 15. Next, we multiply that way. That's 10. We raise the sign. That's plus. We multiply that way. That's 3. Whatever that answer is, we put on top. Do we have to possibly mess around with that fraction? Absolutely. Technically, this is correct. It may not be in the lowest terms. It may have to be reduced or changed, but at least it's technically right. And we got there in 4 easy steps. Whether it's plus or minus, that's the steps we do. Multiply across, multiply that way, raise the sign, multiply that way, whatever the answer is, put there. If this had been minus instead of plus, all of these numbers would be the same, except instead it would be 10 minus 3, so it would be 7. So taking this fact, this is the takeaway from this. We're going to try to get to a 50-50 and hopefully be right. So this is what we do when we add and subtract fractions. Well, I'm looking at this mess, and all I'm going to do is one step. X to the second power and 3x down here. I'm going to multiply across that way. There's a ghost 1 here. And what do we do when we multiply? We just do what we can. 1 times 3 is 3. X squared is really just x times x times another x is x to the third. So if I did that one step real quick, I got to this as a bottom number. Now, like I said, and then we would do this with that whole big old number and that with this whole big number. And then we come over here and do all those other steps. We're not going to do those. All I did was that really quick, and I got to that. Now, I don't see that here. All I see is that adding together, and that doesn't even come close to what I know, at least at one step, is going to be right. So both of these are a no. This isn't exactly it, because that says x to the second, and I got x to the third. So somewhere in there with all those other numbers, there may be a chance where we knock out that and knock out an x or whatever over here, and it gets reduced to that. At least I knew it was one of these two. I picked C, and I was wrong. It was D. But this is how we survive, because it's a coin flip. And just because I went heads on this one and the answer was tails, doesn't mean I shouldn't try to do this. I'll get half of them right. You'll get half of the coin flips right. You don't have to be lucky. You just do your best. So this is an example of how we survive those difficult questions. So by doing the basics of fractions, let's take that as the plus, or the minus in this case. That, you know, this is a pretty straightforward little fraction here, a little problem. 8, 4, raise the sign, minus 2, 4 minus 2 is 2/8. Is this in its final terms? No, it can go lower. They're both even numbers, so we can cut them in half, is 1/4. So this is the simple version of that. So next time we run into a problem like this, multiply those two on the bottom, and you go, you know what? That's not even close to either one of these. It's close to those two. What did I do? In 15 seconds, I gave myself a coin flip by just saying all we're doing is adding, subtracting fractions in the most complicated way ever. How long would it be a waste of time for a question that's probably only going to come up once on the test? 1 out of 46 questions. To learn how to do all of this, no. I suggest just surviving. Give yourself a coin flip. Take a deep breath. Nobody gets through a boxing match without a glove being landed on them. 46 rounds of boxing, they're going to get one once in a while. But give yourself a trick or a tool to answer things quickly and not get worn out.